So I will continue pretty much where you left off. What is really the advantage of easy-graft? And he very well presented. Easy-graft minimizes the usage of the membrane. We're always looking for things that are easier to use, especially in extraction sockets. And one of those things is easy-graft because it can be stabilize itself. It's containable without a membrane, although I'll show you cases that I've used with a membrane. The PLGA polymer layer prevents the growth of soft tissue to the defect. And most of the things we use today, either bone, allograft, or xenograft, or anything else, the whole point of why they work a lot of times is that they prevent epithelium and soft tissue to migrate into the socket itself. And of course, there's less postoperative symptoms in patients, which is a benefit. And the whole point that I'm looking at a material, no matter what kind of a material it is to really be replaced by the natural bone, by patient bone. That's the reason why very rarely do I use bovine bone or xenografts, because they stay around for a long time. And most of the time, I don't want them to stay around. There are certain cases that we need them, but I don't use them much. And of course, one vascularization that is similar to an ungrafted native bone. So what are the recommended indications? It's like any other bone substitute, is edentulous ridge preservation, immediate implant placement, and I've used the periodontal defects as well successfully. So let's start with the edentulous ridge preservation and followed by late implant placement. And I will show you a little pilot study that we just, last June was published on CAP, on the Clinical Advantages of Periodontics. And the studies, you know, the tooth was extracted with minimal invasive approach. That means that I extracted the teeth with very minimal trauma to the bone. And I know we used to call them atraumatic extractions. They don't really exist, except the one that Dr. D'Alessandro does. So in the edentulous ridge preservation, in the first case, I used easy-graft classic by itself. On the second case, easy-graft and GUIDOR matrix barrier. And in the third case, kind of like a control, what I most of the times used to use, and that was FTPA, which is a human allograft, and a collagen membrane. In this particular case, it was cytoplasm. Primary closure was not achieved in any of those cases, neither was desired. I didn't move the flap coronally. And we did it 10 months, and the reason we did it 10 months, we already had studies of 4 months, and what happens, like you showed, you know, replacement, and how much bone we got. The reason we did it 10 months is we wanted to see, does the bone keep remodeling, and does more of the easy-graft turn into patient bone? And at that time, of course, I recruited my good friend, Dr. Lingen, who is the director of oral pathology at University of Chicago. And right before, with my pilot, instead of using a pilot drill, I used a trephine to take a core of bone and have it analyzed. So in the first case, and I'll show you all the cases, I did computer-guided placement of the implants, and almost 100% of the implants that have been placed in probably the last 8 or 10 years are computer-guided. Patient is a male, 45 years old, non-smoker. Tooth number 19 was the issue. Vision of the extraction was tooth fracture and subsequent infection of the lingual plate. There was 20% loss of the buccal plate, but almost 90% loss of the lingual plate. And you can see this area is swelling when he presented. Pretty much most of the cases that I've done, a lot of them were cases that they had infection. And although in most of these cases I did not place an immediate implant because I don't place many immediate implants. And you can see the loss of bone here. There was actually a fracture on the distal lingual aspect of the distal root, a vertical fracture. And here's the placement of the bone. The most important thing, I think you mentioned the same thing, is degranulation of the socket. You cannot leave any granulomatous tissue in the socket. You want to be down into solid bone. And that's true for any material, not just easy-graft. And of course, just because I was not 100% sure that the tooth was fractured, I did lay a flap, and tooth was extracted, and then I did, since I'm a periodontist, I like to suture everything. This is 5 months postoperatively, and then actually the ridge is here. But there's really nice tissue healing. Here's the bone still remodeling after 5 months. And then these are the, after taking impressions, you know, we merge the actual patient's mouth or the model with the scan, with the virtual placement of the implant. And like you did, I use Straumann implants. Most of my implants are Straumann implants. And in molar areas, because those cases that I'm going to show you mostly are in molar areas, I like the tissue level implants, especially the wide neck, wherever I can place it. And that's because that's what the prosthodontists or a lot of the dentists that I work with, they would like. You can see in cross section the area of where the implant is going to be placed and the quality of bone. 360 Imaging was the company that I did the case that I'm going to show you that printed those guides for me. Of course, I laid a flap for the mid. First of all, most of the times I do lay a flap. Maybe not as extensive as this one, but in this particular case, number one, I wanted to feel and see the quality of the bone and the width of the ridge. The other reason was that I wanted to take a core of bone. So the implant is placed. So there's the implant placement. And 4 months after implant placement, it was when the implant was restored. And again, where the bone is going to always end up is about the area where the color of the implant starts. You know, that there's no, you know. This is 3 years postoperatively, and again, if I go back, you would see the level of the bone has pretty much been unchanged, where the polished color of the implant starts in the Straumann implants, and this is 3 years later. Another patient is, and in those cases we picked, of course, patients who didn't have any major medical issues. For the simple reason is we don't want those to affect our results. This is a 26-year-old young lady, non-smoker, no medical problems. And here, tooth number 18 was the fractured tooth and subsequent infection on the buccal aspect. That's why she had 70% of the buccal plate that was missing. X-ray. Now here we did, and I'll show you here, is the second case I used easy-graft CLASSIC and the GUIDOR membrane. And the reason I picked to use the GUIDOR, number one, was I wanted to see what's going to do with the GUIDOR, with the membrane. The second reason was because we were missing the buccal plate. And especially in the mandible, most of the time what prevents us from placing an implant is the buccal plate. This is after the section of the tooth and extracting it. You can see here where the blade is going, the invagination of the flap. Actually, it was not a big flap. All I did was undermine this area past the area of the defect. Then placed easy-graft. And then I placed the membrane, which was the GUIDOR membrane, about 3 millimeters past the bottom of the defect. And then, of course, we tack it on the lingual aspect, about 3 millimeters past the crest of the ridge. Now, what you're going to see when you use a membrane, sometimes I put a little bit of extra bone that otherwise I wouldn't have done if I didn't have a membrane. This is 4 months post-op, again, really nicely healed tissue. Here's the remodeling bone. Again, guided placement of the implant, pure guided placement. In this case, just because of the space here, I had to go with a regular neck, Straumann tissue level, not a wide neck. Now, what you're going to see here is, look at this area right here. Actually, we got some vertical bone growth, and I believe the reason we got that, and that's what I think, is the fact that when you place the membrane, the top, or a lot of the top particles of the material that normally they come off over a few weeks of healing, they actually stayed underneath the membrane. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So in any case, although part of this is gone just by placing the implant and doing the osteotomy, see, we have a very nice buccal plate that wasn't existent before, and very good height of the ridge and width. Again, you can see the merging with the scan. Again here, I have to lay a little flap so I can get my core out of it. The implant is placed. 4 months after, the implant was restored. Again, the bone is going to end up right at the area where the polish color starts. And this one is what traditionally we do. Most of us use a bone allograft and a collagen membrane. And this patient is a 50-year-old female, non-smoker, no significant medical history. Tooth number 3, again, reason was extraction, fracture and subsequent infection. And in this particular case, sorry, I'm going to go back. There was 80% bone loss on the lingual aspect of the palatal bone and only 10% on the buccal bone. So we had a pretty decent, thin but pretty decent buccal plate. So again here, the tooth was sectioned and extracted with minimal trauma of the bone. Bone graft was placed and then covered with the cellulose membrane. 6 months post-operatively, again, there was good healing of the soft tissue, good healing of the bone. And here again, I placed, I think it was an 8mm Straumann 4.8 wide neck implant. After taking a core bone, this is the area restored 4 months later. Again, like I said, these are probably like about 3mm or so, no more than 4. It's just that the bone is at the level of the skull. So this is the histology that my friend Dr. Lincoln did. And you're going to see on the first one is the normal, the allograft, human allograft and collagen. And vital bone at 10 months healing is about 38%. In the case of easy-graft alone, we're at approximately 35%. So the difference is about 2% or 3% more bone, which is not statistically significant. So it was very close to what human bone results that were given with the membrane. Now, in the area that I used the GUIDOR membrane, I've used it several times, is the easy-graft and the GUIDOR membrane. It was a lot more. Actually, the bone was at 54% vital bone 10 months later. So in our little pilot study, we found was that easy-graft has been replaced by new bone, while the volume of the edentulous ridge has been always adequate or more for the placement of the implant. The easy-graft forms a stable scaffold in the defect when the bony wall is missing, because it contains. So the way that I would decide if I want to use a membrane or not is how extensive is the loss of bone, especially on the buccal. And in those cases, a number of times I like to use a membrane. Most of the time, sometimes GUIDOR, other times collagen, depending on how I feel that day. So addition of a membrane then might be beneficial when the buccal wall is missing or a large amount of it is missing. And when you look back at Dr. Geivelis' study, that they checked histology at 4 months, what they found was that easy-graft, there was 24% approximately vital bone after 4 months. So what we see when we go to 10 months, and one of the reasons we did this study was to actually see, is there more bone, denser bone, more vital bone created? And it is to the tune of 35% versus 24% and 54% with the membrane versus 24%. Doesn't mean we have to wait for 10 months in order to place the implant. The reason we did that is to show that bone that is around the implant, you keep getting more vital bone, and you keep getting more remodeling of the particles into vital bone. This is a study, I had nothing to do with it, but this was a study where this group of oral surgeons, they did a third molar surgery. They removed third molar teeth. And what they found is that a combination of fragmentation of the area of the socket, as well as using easy-graft, they were able to maintain 90% of the bone height in that area. And you know how important that is, especially in cases where wisdom teeth are pretty much removed, or you have loss of bone on the distal of the second molar by the placement of the wisdom tooth or the removal of the wisdom tooth. So that might be an additional use for easy-graft as well as bone. Like I said, I do immediate implants, but not as many as my friend Dr. Megas, and there's another Greek for you. In Massachusetts, and he was kind enough to send me one of his cases that I think looked very similar to what you did. And again, this is a 27-year-old female, no smoker, no significant medical history. The studded tooth, again, is number 8. It was fractured and had a thin buccal lingual plate and about 20% loss of the buccal plate. Here's the tooth in the radiograph. Tooth was extracted. There was no flap and there was no suturing of the area, so the easy-graft was placed. And then they used the temporary at the same time to contain the material. And this is, I don't know why I show it, but 4 months. I've used it in several patients on periodontal defects. This is one of the patients. This is measured in 3 millimeters increments. This is about 9 millimeters right here. Patient is 66 years old, female, non-smoker, no significant medical history. Distal of tooth number 4, it was most of the bonus was present. 2 vertical periodontal defect. And it is, the defect is really here. I know it's a little harder to see, but this is the area of the defect. So the area, again, was very thoroughly degranulated. The roots of the teeth were scaled rootlet and debrided, and Prevgel was used to condition the roots. And here is easy-graft placed in the area. Again, no membrane in this case. None of my periodontal cases have I used the membrane, but it's really easy to use in those cases. And here I have initially, there's the defect, and then at 1 year, and then at 4 years. So it has maintained the amount of bone in a periodontal defect. This is another patient, 68 years old, high cholesterol, and takes simvastatin as a strong medication. She came in, there's a circumferential defect that goes along the lingual aspect of the tooth and then drops to here with the vertical defect. Another circumferential defect on number 31 that drops into a vertical bony defect on the distal. This is immediately, this is the initial, this is after surgery. Thank goodness I was able to clean this up and didn't show right here. This is again the initial, and this is again you can see the difference on the initial, and 2 years later we're sustaining. Now it's probing about 3 millimeters, and here it's hard to see, where the bone is about here, because this is the lingual bone. Just although it was a vertical radiograph, it just somehow didn't show that. So in any case, to summarize, the easy-graft classic is usable for any defects, especially when the stabilization of the bone graft is critical, which is every time. Long-term follow-up of cases so that newly formed bone is stable. The patients may receive a benefit with minimally invasive approach. That means when you extract the tooth with minimal trauma to the bone, without flapping if you don't have to, and thorough degranulation and placement of the material with or without a membrane. And that's it. Thank you so much. Any questions?